people are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
It's success of life.
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Student Side Hustle. This week I'm speaking to Joshua Kenyon. If you will probably have heard his name if you have been sort of listening to natural bodybuilding over the last sort of 2, 3, 4 months. Basically, you'll know Kenny on Third if you know his Instagram. He's basically, if I basically say who he is, he's a natural bodybuilder. You see, he did a super long bulk, and now he's competing in Muscle Mayhem this year with 3DMJ coaching him. So Josh, how did this all start, and how did you sort of figure out that you wanted to get into natural bodybuilding?
Well, I'll just go ahead and say again, thanks for even letting me come on, the podcast. It's just mind-blowing to me, talk about bodybuilding. So,
yeah.
But yeah, basically, I started out, 13 years old. It was about 6 years ago exactly.
Yeah.
Just really growing up, always being super small.
Yeah.
I was, 95 pounds at this time. Basically, I was about to, be in the 8th grade, and
yeah,
I wanted to be bigger. And I always, I guess, in a way, was fascinated by, really muscular physiques. I guess like I used to watch, like Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah.
Anime when I grew up, and obviously I like superheroes and stuff like that, and basically. Yeah, I was just always small though, so and I was kind of athletic, growing up. I played, sports, baseball growing up all the time, and there was a year I played football too, and I was always in good shape and everything, but I just wanted to be bigger, so I started lifting at my house, using what I had, basically dumbbells, ankle weights, my book bag,
Really? That's sick.
I got a pull-up bar, and basically, I would just do workouts. I started lifting like 7 days a week. Every day I was just working out, doing squats with my book bag on and my ankle weights in there and stuff like that. And basically months later I got a weight set from Academy Sports. So I started lifting, I guess you could say for real then, and just using the barbell and dumbbells I had. We had a little weight machine, and basically I just used that, and basically all throughout high school I was using that. So lifting throughout high school was where my goal was just to put on weight. Basically,
Did you sort of was there bits like, because when I first started there was huge gaps in my knowledge.
Kind of.
Yeah. Did you find like there was bits where you didn't understand?
What was that?
Do you look back now and you're like, oh my god, I wish I figured out how nutrition worked, or I figured out how X, Y, and Z worked? Is there any like massive gaps in your knowledge that you thought you had back then?
Well, definitely. There was a lot I didn't know. But what I did know is I knew I needed to eat more. And be in a surplus to really add on the muscle. So that's something I think a lot of younger people do fail to even realize, is that you gotta be in that well-fed state to put on size. So that's something I'm happy I did try to put on weight, even though obviously over the course of the years I got to a point where I was pretty heavy. Before I decided to prep for this show, I got up to 210. About 210, and pretty good amount of fat was put on, but there was no period of time that I tried to cut during then, though.
And I think
it was
that's
just
such a good thing.
steadily trying to put on weight.
And you did it for like how long would you say in total your surplus was from like beginning to end?
It was about 5 years.
That's something basically. That's like, when you say 5 years, it's like for people to like, that is the entire length of my high school, like of me going to high school. And that's something that I think is, I'm glad it's being pushed more in this sort of community. And I'm glad to see like you are almost one of the like great examples of it. Because now it's like, now that you're cutting now after like 5 years of just being in a surplus, and like what you're revealing is insane. And it's like, that is such a cool thing. Like, how do you think, were there ever times when you were sort of in your surplus and you were thinking, oh, all the other kids are getting shredded for summer or whatever. Was there ever a time like that?
Well, really and truly, not really. Basically, I guess what really drove me was just the progress in the gym.
Yeah.
Or I say in the gym, though technically it was at my house, but like basically just hitting PRs.
Yeah.
That's what that I was addicted to that pretty much. Whenever I was making strength gains, and I love that. Just hitting a PR on the bench or squat or deadlift or whatever it was. So basically, it's almost like over that period of time, really, I almost was blinded to the amount of fat I really gained.
Yeah.
And
Didn't really care too much.
knowing that I was getting stronger and getting bigger, I knew I was gaining muscle, so I was willing just to make that sacrifice, even though there was some fat. So it wasn't really until basically like before I decided to do a show. Maybe a month or so before then, I remember looking back at a YouTube video I had posted from my senior year of high school, whenever I was about 182. And I was leaner obviously then. And I remember watching that and being like, dang, I was pretty lean back then. And that's when I kind of came to that realization of how much fat I had put on. So it's funny. Like most guys,
at the end, do you feel like you do you feel like from 182 to 210, do you feel like that sort of period it put on too much fat or excessive amounts?
Well, yeah. So basically, like the start of my senior year, I was about 182, and so I'm just gonna kind of backtrack a little bit, but basically, there was a period probably about my junior year of high school where I kind of plateaued with my weight gain. I wasn't gaining too much weight during that time, and so I was struggling to put on weight, because I had to force myself to eat basically. And for me, with my schedule at school, I had kind of a shorter window of time to get in all my food after school. So I just tried to put down whatever I could. And there was a point in time where I wasn't really making much progress, and obviously that was disappointing. But basically my senior year is whenever I was about 182, and I started utilizing fast food basically. I was driving at the time, so I would go and get some fast food after school. Usually a few days of the week. I would eat that and train sometime afterwards, and then eat some more after I got done with that. But basically that's when I started putting on more weight, and then I went from 182 to 210 in about a year's time. So a lot of gains are actually made though during that point in time. And
did you sort of
obviously
there
was definitely
210 for a while?
fat.
Did you sort of
What was that?
when you got to 210, did you just sort of sit at that weight for a while and just sort of let that weight work itself out?
Well, basically, I mean, I got to 200 about the time I think I graduated, which was probably about May, late May, of that year. Of 2017. To around 210 at that time. So, I didn't really sit just at 210. Basically, when I got up to about 210, 212, that's when I finally decided, okay, I don't need to put on any more weight right now.
Can you see yourself in the future trying to push up to something like 220, try and get really heavy, or do you think? Because I know for Alberto, a lot of people, he's aiming to set 190 or something like that, I think, and then and then a lot of, if you scroll down his comment section, people are like, screw this 190 crap, go to 200 and just all that stuff. Do you think can you see yourself just pushing up really high?
Well, I guess, obviously I feel like one day I'll, get back up to probably 210 again, but hopefully with a, more muscular physique, I don't really know how much heavier than that I'll ever get up to, but obviously, hopefully this next, I guess off season I'll, put on some more muscle so that if I do ever get back up to, 210, it'll look a little, little better.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I feel like for me, it's like with the whole like trying like forcing yourself to eat. That's definitely my main issue. Is like I've gained like 20 kilos now, and it's like I'm still like fuck eating. Like oh my god, eating is a bloody chore. Like if I didn't have to eat, that'd be
Right.
great. But it's like you got to eat. So and it's like the key. It's like if I didn't eat, I wouldn't gain shit. So it's like I got to eat. Do you find like what were sort of your best strategies for I guess forcing down food? Was it mainly like the fast food sort of thing? Because for me, I found for me calories. If I have a smoothie and then I put olive oil in it, that works decently well. Just because it's like a bunch of easy fat. You can't really taste it. Kinda can, but and just a fuck ton of peanut butter.
Right.
Were there any sort of like very practical strategies like that where you just can force down calories?
Well, obviously, my approach wasn't necessarily, I would say, the most optimal,
Yeah,
but with the fast food, with that more, calorically dense
yeah,
food,
yeah,
that's what helped me to really, add on some more weight
yeah.
and make it a little easier because
Mm.
I'm telling you, like for me, it was a super chore,
Yeah,
to just put on weight.
yeah,
It got up to the point where I would eat so slow, like just because like I was in such an overfed state,
yeah.
like it
And
would
just
take me so long to eat, and
yeah,
I even got to the point where like in the mornings after breakfast, I would like sometimes I threw up
really.
after a meal
Because it
because
was
like
like
it
there
was
was just
just
so much in there.
yeah, and like
Yeah,
I would go to bed on a full stomach sometimes, and
yeah,
so I would drink milk a lot too,
yeah,
try to put on weight and have like protein bars,
yeah, yeah,
peanut butter crackers, stuff like
yeah.
that, Pop Tarts.
What about when you like went to university? I mean, when you went to high school, when you were like at high school, did you find? Because for me, I that's when I started gymming, but I was also doing distance running, which was kind of like they're so counterintuitive. If you're trying to bulk, yet you're
hmm
burning an extra 1,500 calories or doing a 2 hour run every day, like some shit like that. Like, oh
Well, it's funny because actually, throughout this period of time, I was also like running several times a week,
fuck,
just about a mile.
what
But
what
I
for?
got in the habit of doing that.
Just for like general health or like
Yeah, it was basically one day. One day I was out with my brothers at the track. We
hmm
were out there for whatever reason, and I think they wanted to run or something.
hmm
So this was after years of putting on weight and
yeah
some fat and everything, and not really doing much running.
yeah
So basically, I remember trying to run around the track and like just dying
mm-hmm.
basically, and realizing like, dang man, my cardio sucks
Yeah.
now. That's kind of what triggered for me to just start running just for,
Yeah.
I guess health, and just for my cardio.
Yeah, just from like a perspective of like general health. Because I know for me, like I'm
Yeah,
still
even there at this time, I was running.
yeah, and like I feel like my cardio is kind of trash now. Like I used to be like the kid who was like literally I could shit on anyone in a running race, anything long distance, easy. Like I'm definitely not built for weightlifting, but I find running boring as fuck, so I don't do it. So and I just don't enjoy training for it. But then weightlifting is like, oh, I train for that shit all day. But I definitely find my cardio is kind of like I'll be like walking sometime, then I don't feel myself breathing too heavily while I'm walking, but I'll feel myself breathing, and I'll be like, oh shit, I'm unhealthy. But it's kind of like I feel like it's kind of just like a cardio thing, and I'm not too fussed about it. What about when it comes to like all the like because quite recently you've been like sort of thrust into the spotlight thanks to like Alberto and 3DMJ and all that sort of stuff. How has sort of that affected your mind? Because like for me, like I'm trying to get into the spotlight, or I'm trying to increase my views, I'm trying to increase my like sort of influence, and it's sort of for me it's more like for you, did you feel like it was not planned, but not like did you feel like it was like okay, I want to get well known in the natty sort of scene, I want to make my mark sort of thing? Or do you feel like it was sort of like okay, fuck, what happened? Like oh no, like did I just get like everyone knows who I am now? And did it feel like very surreal?
Yeah, well, yeah, basically I would describe it as that surreal,
Mm.
I really wasn't expecting to get so much attention. When I decided I was going to prep for a show, and obviously I didn't plan to do this particular show starting out either. I was planning just to do probably a local show.
Yeah.
I live in Georgia. I was planning on maybe one in Florida, Georgia, somewhere more nearby. So yeah, it was basically super surreal. I was not expecting to get so many followers, and just getting 3DMJ, like kind of giving me shout outs and
and
reposting my stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you feel like
is mind blowing?
Yeah. Do you feel like it's sort of you've gone from like being like a relatively unknown kid, and now you're like, basically, if I say your name to anyone, a lot of my like bodybuilding podcast guests, most of them will know who you are. Like, and that's like, I feel like that's like a good sign of like making your mark. And it's like I was looking through, I was on your page earlier and I saw Jeff Nippard follows you, and like people like that. It's like that dude has a lot of followers. Like that dude's got some big influence and stuff like that. And do you feel like now you sort of have to more like, it's gone from it's just you in your garage working out to like, okay, now I have people sort of behind me and like sort of counting on me and look and like watching what I'm doing?
Right. Yeah, and it's really mind blowing, especially for me personally. I've always been a reserved, kind of shy person.
Yeah.
And so especially to get so much attention now.
Yeah.
It's me, especially I've looked up to. I've followed for years on YouTube.
Yeah.
3DMJ. I learned about them from Matt Ogus.
Yeah.
Whenever he was prepping for his shows, and so I followed them for years. And Jeff Nippard and a lot of these other, people that are following me now.
Yeah.
I've already looked up to and followed them. So it's crazy to get feedback from them, and it's really humbling and just. It still is surreal to me.
Yeah. When it comes to like your sort of future plans of like where you feel that you may go or where you want to see yourself go, where would you hope that you go, and where, saying like we're talking like 5, 10, 15 years, like I'm assuming that you will hopefully want to do something in bodybuilding, whether it's coaching, whether it's being a bodybuilder, whether it's trying to get your physique to the highest level you possibly can. Where do you sort of see yourself going in bodybuilding, and where would you hope that you want to go?
Well, yeah, that's definitely something I've been thinking about more so now. And basically, starting this prep, I just wanted to see, like I wasn't really sure if I was gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
When I started lifting, obviously I didn't initially plan to compete.
Yeah.
But as I got into working out and bodybuilding, watching other people and Matt Ogus, people like that, that's when I decided I might want to compete one day. And once I finally got up to the weight I did, and that's when I decided I wanted to do a show while I was still a teen. So that's what kind of motivated me to first do a show. Was I was turning 19 and I wanted to do one before I turned 20. And I just wanted to at least do one show to see if I liked it or not. And I didn't want to have a regret, like later in life thinking like, man, I wish I had have at least, tried, So yeah, basically since it's been really awesome and so far, I feel like I would probably, continue to compete in the years to come, and so that's something I plan to do more shows and potentially probably win my pro card.
That'd be like, because I can definitely see like with your physique, you've done the investment period, and like that, like the majority of the investing is done. So now it's like you could probably compete like in a ton of shows and still like you still have a fuck ton of muscle mass. And like is there any areas that you think you need improvement on, or any areas that you think are like your major weak points?
Yeah, it's funny because initially I really almost didn't want to compete yet because I still felt like I don't have enough muscle.
Right.
And the only thing that really did motivate me was that I wanted to do one before I turned 20, and I wanted to basically still compete in the teen class, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Because of that reason, I felt like to me, in my eyes, I don't feel like I have a lot of muscle.
Right.
So I still feel like, there's so many improvements I can make.
Yeah.
I'm confident, 100% confident. There's a lot. And funny enough, I actually was kind of getting more into powerlifting
Yeah.
and strength training right before I started prepping.
Yeah. Did you
And
find
so I may even potentially want to compete in powerlifting too.
Yeah, and I feel like because that's what a lot of because I know Eric Helms, and also I think Alberto does, and didn't Brad just qualify for Raw Nationals? Like I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of
Yeah, he
them
just competed.
in their off season, they're like that's the thing that I think a lot of people get wrong when like the sort of mainstream media looks at bodybuilding. They think, oh wow, bodybuilders that just have fluffy muscle that doesn't do anything, but it's kind of like not really. It's like maybe some bodybuilders, but I'd say the majority of them can still bench a fuck ton. Like they can still
Right.
bench a lot more than the average person. Like, and it's not by like an insignificant amount.
Right.
How much weight do you put on like sort of getting strong versus getting big? And do you feel like there's a direct correlation, or do you feel like the stronger you get, the bigger you get, sort of thing?
Well, obviously, I feel like if you're, putting on muscle, you're putting on strength, some strength
Yeah.
as well. But
Yeah.
I know there's definitely something to be said about actually, doing like a strength based or strength focused program versus just a
Yeah.
hypertrophy, focused program,
Yeah.
and like for me, when I tried to do, I was actually doing like a little deadlift program, it was Ed Cohen's 10-week deadlift program. And
Yeah.
before this, I had never, done like a strength based program really at all.
Yeah.
So basically, it was definitely kind of different for me, just because my central nervous system wasn't really used to these heavier loads I was, trying to lift,
Yeah.
So,
It just
yeah,
felt like very differently
definitely,
taxing.
obviously, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're not used to, lifting, in that 95%,
Yeah.
range, your 1 rep max,
Mm.
it's going to be, tough at first. But, so yeah, definitely there, I feel like, there's somewhat of a difference, if you're
Yeah.
just focusing on, hitting that 8 to 12 rep range, you're going to be good at lifting in that 8 to 12 rep range.
Yeah.
And if you're, trying to lift in like the, trying to hit singles,
Yeah.
you get good at that,
Yeah.
at whatever rep range, basically, you're training in, you're going to, get good at that rep range, so.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, like I feel like I heard someone say, I think it was Jack Thornberry. He's a UK bodybuilder. He basically said,
Yeah.
it's about getting strong and being able to lift heavy weight in all rep ranges, and it's sort of like it's still heavy. It's just different rep ranges. Like just because it's high reps doesn't mean it's light, sort of thing. I liked the way he put that, and the way he put sort of getting strong in all rep ranges instead of just thinking, oh, what's your 1 RM, like, but what's your 20 RM, and all that sort of stuff, and like sort of seeing how like different it can be. Is there any particular lifts that you find don't agree with you? Because I know for me, I can't deadlift or squat because I have same thing Brad has. I have scoliosis, but then I also had a spinal fusion, so I've got like metal in my spine. It's like messed up. It's pretty sick. But basically that affects a lot of my lifting. So squats for me, I can't put a plate either side and it still feel good. And that's like such a light squat, right? But I find I just can't, and I can't even deadlift anything over 50 kilos without it feeling like shite, like just feeling like my body's being torn in two directions. How is there any sort of certain lifts that you find just don't agree with your body, or you just think they're not for you?
To be honest, I mean, I can't really say. I know initially squats, I definitely initially struggled with squats because I used to have really bad ankle mobility.
Right.
So basically, when I would squat down, I couldn't have my knees couldn't, track past my toes just because of my poor ankle mobility. So as a result, my torso would become so almost bent over.
Yeah, you're
You
almost
know,
like
I
sort
couldn't
of like
stay
this.
upright.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know that was a problem for me for a
Mm.
period of time
Mm.
until I figured out, the why I was, struggling so much. And
Yeah.
so I've worked on my ankle mobility. It's increased a lot. So my squats, have definitely improved because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something initially, but
As of now.
and another thing about the powerlifting, I want
Yeah.
to kind of, get into that some and like doing sumo deadlifts and
Yeah.
um, low bar squats are two variations I want to kind of learn. Which
Yeah.
right now I've always just done conventional deadlifts and high bar
Yeah.
squats or
Yeah.
front squats. So
Yeah.
I want to eventually experiment with them and see if
Yeah.
I
See if you
maybe
see how heavy you can
am
go, or
better
see if
built for
they.
them.
Yeah. Because I think like for me, and there's this guy I follow. You'll probably he's like a Gymshark guy, very like fluffy, not really a bodybuilder. He's very like Gymsharky, but he does sumo deadlifts. It's David Lade because he's got like super long limbs, and then
Yeah.
like he tries conventional. It's
Yeah.
just like no, like it's just not going to work. Well, he can go pretty. He's still strong as fuck, but like he can sumo like 7 plates or some shit. Like it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty crazy,
Yeah.
and like you wouldn't expect
Yeah,
it.
and like I don't know if you know Russ Wohl.
Oh,
You
that
probably
guy. He's
heard of him.
he's a
Wrestle,
fucking
or he,
beast. That guy's
yeah,
a
his
legend.
he's just built for conventional.
Yeah.
He's like the perfect build for
Mm,
conventional
mm.
deadlifts. And I know for me, obviously I've never really done sumo, and I definitely want to experiment with them.
Mm.
For me doing conventional, I know that, like I'm not in the most upright position,
Yeah.
so I do end up using a lot of my, my lower back
Yeah.
in the deadlift.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, contributed to my erectors,
Yeah.
really being more developed.
Mm, mm.
But so that's something I want to experiment with is maybe I'm better built for sumo actually.
Mm. Yeah, and definitely like seeing which one works better. Because I know
Yeah.
AJ Morris he basically, his goal in this off season is one of his goals is get some thick erectors. And the way he's doing that is doing heavy deadlifts with no belt and just making sure form is on point. And I think that's
Yeah, and yeah, I actually have never used a belt. That's kind of
Really?
funny. So yeah, that's actually something I do is
On no
I've
lifts
never
ever?
used a belt.
what is the rationale
No.
behind that?
It's basically the same rationale as the fact that I've never used creatine either.
Right. Really?
It's just yeah,
Well, I feel like it's.
a lot of people are surprised about that.
Is there anything
there's-
that you do you use any sort of supplements? Do you use whey or anything like that?
What?
Do you use any supplements, whether it comes to like whey or like, do you use, well, when I say supplements, let's include equipment in there. Like, do you use like lifting straps? Do you use wrist wraps, stuff like that? Is there any equipment that you do use that is like, that's quite, wow. Like, is there a rationale behind not using creatine as well?
Basically, yeah, I mean, I use lifting straps and whey protein. It's just
Yeah.
Creatine. To be honest, like I never really put a lot of weight on supplements, so
Yeah.
like
That's-
I never really saw them as really very important. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
So I just never taken creatine. And
Yeah.
I haven't felt the need to be honest.
Yeah.
And for the belt, I know that I probably should invest in one.
Yeah.
But right now,
You just lift.
I don't know.
Just go in there, do the
I don't know,
work.
something about just not using one. I don't know. It's like the fact that I don't know. I mean, like I know I probably need to.
Yeah.
At some point, I will
For
probably.
powerlifting, definitely. But for bodybuilding, it's like I used to literally think I needed it on every single exercise because of my scoliosis. Like I would wear it for like, well, I guess it's kind of useful for rows, but like I'd wear it for like lat pull down or like shoulder press, and it's like, what is that doing? Like I wouldn't even be doing a deadlift or a squat. I would just be wearing it all the time, and I feel like it's really good of like, and really like I feel like you've gone in the opposite way that a lot of people go. Everyone else is like, oh, what supplement's the best? Like which pre-workout do I take? Which belt? When do I wear my belt? Like you've sort of gone like, okay, I've nailed the basics. Like you've got everything down at the bottom of the pyramid, and then now you're building up, and it's like that's. I think most people like skip the first step, or they don't have their ego gets too big. They're like, "Yep, okay, I know that. Yep, then they go up the pyramid, and then that pyramid, this bit's only being held up by two little planks, so like it's not really working properly. Would you ever like, do you want to use, like, I guess stuff like creatine, it's kind of like, it's pretty like well known that it works pretty well, and it's pretty well like, and for me it's like, my friend just gave me, he like gymmed for a bit, and then he stopped gymming, so he gave me a kg of creatine, so I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll just take it, like, completely free. But it's like, do you think in your next bulk you will take stuff like creatine and try and like get those little 2-3% sort of bonuses?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one day I will, and with the belt, I guess the thing about using the belt is, I guess I didn't ever want to feel like I was reliant on it.
Right, yeah.
Reliant on one.
Yeah.
But obviously I know there's benefits to using them, just like with creatine, so I'm sure one day I probably will. I guess one thing about creatine is, you know, like, just like with this, you know, I get a lot of, you know, I'll get a lot of reactions, you know, when people hear, like, you don't even use creatine, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, like, I don't need this supplement, you know, or whatever, and
it's kind of
especially, you know, it's fun. Reason why it's almost like, I don't know if I want to use creatine, because I like, you know, people get surprised because I don't use it, but it's kind of like, you know, I just don't need it.
Yeah.
You
like,
know?
for me, when I am not taking creatine, I can't really notice too much of a difference. Like, I can notice a little, but it's not night and day. Like, it's kind of, there's a lot of in between. And like, I used to put so much, I got into the sort of the mindset of, I can't even believe I used to think this, but I used to think I was at my genetic peak. I thought I'd gain as much muscle as possible, and all I could do from now is like tweak some things at the top of the pyramid. But really, I hadn't got the basics down at all. And it's like, I would go into the gym and have this, like, if I didn't hit my lifts, I would think, oh my god, it's probably because I missed my creatine last week, like some dumb shit like that. Instead of thinking like, oh, how many carbs did I eat yesterday? Did I eat enough food? Do I weigh more? Like, that sort of stuff. And now I feel like I find for me, if I go purely off scale weight, it goes pretty well for me. Because generally my lifestyle is pretty consistent. There's no real like major fluctuations. I don't fluctuate too much. By the end, I notice if I eat a bunch of food the night before, and if I know that I've really hit my sort of calorie intake, then I notice I will be up on the scale weight. And I definitely feel like that sort of, I feel like I got into the trap of putting too much emphasis on the things that don't matter that much. And I feel like you've sort of gone the complete opposite route, and I think it's done very, very well for you, because you've kind of been like, okay, I'm not going to cut. I'm not going to put emphasis on creatine. I'm going to put emphasis on like the building blocks that build the base and build the foundation, and then like go up from there. What about when it comes to like...
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of people make jokes like, haha, creatine, you're going on creatine, now you're jacked, like, haha. Like, you know, almost pretending it's a steroid, like that sort of joke. But how do you sort of deal with the negative comments that you've got, and then sort of the like, oh, nah, bullshit, fake natty, like all that sort of shit? Because it's like, I feel like from your perspective, it's either going to be like, haha, that's hilarious, or it's going to be like, fuck, like I put in all this work and now it's being like put down to steroids. How does that sort of play on your mindset, and how do you sort of deal with the comments like that?
Well, you know, it's really funny because obviously it's not been until I started, you know, to cut that I'm getting all these comments, which that's like typical with most natural bodybuilders that are, you know, like on social media, you know, and on YouTube, whenever they're prepping for a show, you know, Matt Ogus, you know, the amount of comments he's gotten, and some of the other guys like that, you know, and of course even the 3DMJ guys, you know, like, you know, whenever you're shredded and you built a good foundation of muscle, you know, you must be taking steroids to you know, look like that. So yeah, it's really, to me, it's mind blowing, because I don't view myself as, you know, having some super good physique really, and or
do you
having
think,
so
like,
much muscle.
When you look at your physique, how do you can you sort of respect your own physique and be like, wow, like I've put in some sick work, like this is a dope physique. Like, even for myself, and my physique's still like pretty shite, But I feel like when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, damn, who is that? Fuck, what a sexy motherfucker, like all that sort of stuff. Like, do you find like when you look at yourself? Because there's been someone said it on. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he basically said, "Oh, to be a bodybuilder, you've got to have some sort of body dysmorphia, etc. Blah blah blah." And I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, but do you find when you look at your physique, it's? I think I had a good conversation with Eric about it. It was sort of like, okay, it's not this thing of insecurity. It's this thing of like, okay, how can I improve this sculpture sort of thing? Do you feel like you have that sort of mindset about it?
Yeah, well, I guess it's always been like, just there's improvements to be made, That's how it's always been, whenever obviously like, my starting base, when I was 13, if I looked then at my physique now, I would probably see this physique and be like, wow, this guy looks big or whatever. But now I don't feel like I'm big, when I look at myself. I still feel like I'm that same 13-year-old, starting out almost, so I guess what happens is that now it's like I look upon these guys that are ahead of me, like some of these top natural pros or the 3DMJ guys like Alberto and Jeff, and their physiques. So, I don't view mine as great or anything at all. I just see, I guess a lot of times it is like, I see the flaws.
Yeah.
In mine.
And you sort of like look up and see, okay, like, wow, this guy has more muscle mass and he's leaner, and it's like, wow. And like maybe he's got more symmetry or whatever. And then like, it's sort of like a good sort of thing to compare yourself to. Like,
right. Yeah, and I think it's human nature to compare yourself to others, and especially like on social media now, I get so many comments and stuff of these other people comparing themselves to me, and basically, but I like to use that for me at least as motivation. Whenever I look up to, I compare myself maybe to see these guys that look better than me, and that motivates me. I don't compare myself to people that maybe are smaller or haven't been lifting as long or maybe don't have as good genetics. But those people that are I view at least as having better physiques than me. I like to use that as motivation, I guess. And it pushes me. So
and I feel like that's definitely a great mindset to have, because it's like, imagine if I went into the gym. And I think when I walk into the gym and I'm like in a shirt like this, I think I look pretty good, and I think a lot of people like will admire my physique. But then say if I go comparing myself in my mind to the kid who's 2 weeks into gymming, and he's like 14, it's like that's not a fair comparison, and two, all I'm doing there is stroking my ego, and I feel like what you're doing is sort of the opposite. It's kind of like, okay, let's take myself off the pedestal, realize I'm just like, my physique I haven't won a natural show yet, like all that sort of stuff. And then you can sort of look at all these other physiques and be like, wow, their delts are more round than mine, or their like traps are bigger, or like whatever. And that sort of gives you good like grounding. Where do you think you've like learnt your sort of smart, like slow and like humble approach to bodybuilding? Because I think a lot of people, we talked about it a little before the show, like a lot of people have this sort of mindset of, just work harder, blah blah blah, and then they like to just chuck more weight on and then just let their form get shit and like all this trash. Like, where do you think you've learned the majority of your sort of knowledge when it comes to staying humble in your sort of lifting career and staying like, mainly staying humble?
Well, I think one thing is just my personality, growing up, always being really reserved, shy, I never, didn't have the most confidence, I guess, in myself, So I think that's one thing, I never was really an arrogant person, I would say, at least, and I think that, kind of contributed to it. And also just, I think, obviously really throughout my lifting career, I guess you could say, so far, it's been just focused on myself a lot of the time, being at home, working out alone at my house, no one else watching, by myself the majority of the time. Just that's how it's been. It's not really been me trying to look at this other person or focus on other people or anything. I think that's helped, and also with, trying to use proper form as well, and not, just load up and try to max out like you see,
Yeah.
Me working out at my house. I think that actually helped a lot, in
Yeah.
isolation like that.
Yeah, because you're not thinking like, oh, the person 2 benches over is benching 5 pounds more, but like,
Right.
and you don't have to think about that sort of thing, and you sort of, I think it's a really, really great mindset that you've maintained, which is such a like good thing. Because I think a lot of people get into this mindset of, oh my god, let's laugh at this other person in the gym. Oh, they're smaller, their delts are shite, like whatever it is. And I think it's really, really admirable to be able to maintain that. Because I think a lot of people who have gotten the sort of respect that you've gotten recently, like they would sort of take it and think, wow, I'm amazing, I'm the best, like fuck, everyone must love my physique, I must be a Greek god. But I feel like you've been able to sort of maintain that humility, and I think that's a very hard thing to do. And it's like fucking props to you, because it's like maintaining that humility when everyone's sort of saying like, holy shit, is this guy natural? Like fuck, his physique's insane. And it's like, I think that's such a cool thing that you've been able to do. What about when it
Yeah,
comes?
it's just kind of, I guess, my personality, but
Yeah.
yeah, I never had the most confidence in myself, and
Mm.
that's, obviously, I think that's why, a lot of people do start lifting is a lot
Yeah.
of times initially,
Yeah.
not having much confidence, and
Mm.
trying to build that confidence, and, initially, I think, our goals, our lifting goals change, over time, usually for most people,
Mm.
eventually, we might start out, trying to lift out of, not having much confidence in
Yeah.
the way we look.
Yeah.
But then over time, it's kind of like we just fall in love with the actual process of it.
Definitely.
So it's kind of like our reasons for lifting, our why, kind of changes. But, yeah, I've just kind of always been like this.
Yeah,
So,
just stayed.
I've never wanted to be that person that was arrogant, and
Yeah.
thought they were better than other people because of how they
Yeah.
look. I mean,
Yeah.
like, really, like, how does that make you better than someone else? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, this body we have it really is just temporary,
Yeah.
So
And it's kind of like,
eventually we're all gonna grow older,
Yeah.
and we can't look like
you
we're,
can't stay that jacked
20
when you're
years
like
old,
80.
whatever.
It's like,
you know,
how many like jacked 80-year-olds,
right?
like, and it's kind of like keeping the humility high. Like, do you find like when you get the sort of steroid accusations and like negative comments, does that sort of piss you off a little, or does it sort of just like you just sort of take it to the chin, or like?
I've gotten a little annoyed about it, and a lot of times it's, like you look at the profile of the
Yeah.
person, and it's like, these are the people, okay, that are telling me I'm not natural.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's like guys that have barely been lifting,
Exactly.
or or don't even lift.
Yeah.
And then it's like the guys who actually are, commenting all this positive stuff and following me,
Yeah.
are these guys who actually have competed
Exactly.
naturally, and are credible
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to look, and
Yeah.
so these are the people that actually believe I'm natural,
Mm.
versus the people that don't believe,
Yeah.
are like nobodies. But it does kind of annoy me in some ways, because, it's like you realize, like, man, these people are limiting themselves,
Mm.
really,
And it's
by
kind of
having
like,
this mindset.
yeah. And they sort of think like, okay, the only way that you can look like that is if you go on steroids. But it's like, in the reality, there's so much work that you've put in behind the scenes, and it's hard. Like, even if you do show it on social media, it's hard to display like how much it really is on social media, because it's like for the last 5 years you've put so much emphasis in your life on like getting to this point, and now it's paying off, and people don't see that. Like,
On social media, it's like the highlight reel,
mm.
So you just see, the end result, or these pictures or videos,
Yeah.
but like you don't really see that, the work that's put into it, the hours, the days,
Yeah.
the weeks, all that put into the years, obviously,
Yeah.
put into this. And obviously I didn't just wake up, this lean.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been over 7 months of dieting to get, this lean, and obviously over, like basically 6 years of lifting,
Yeah.
know. So
it's like, that's like
Yeah, I
a
mean-
fucking long time, because like 6 years is like, that's a long time. For me, that's like a third of my whole life.
yeah,
And
Same.
then like a
You know?
7-month
So-
diet as well. Some people can't comprehend a 4-week diet, and it's like when you go into this thinking like, okay, I'm competing in like like 8 months. Like that's a long time.
Right, yeah. And yeah, that's the thing that a lot of these people like, they don't really see, just the amount of time that it really takes, and I think one thing is just having that patience. You have to have patience if
Yeah.
you're going to be a natural bodybuilder, like make all this progress if you're, like competing year after year,
Yeah.
like without taking any breaks, unless of course, you're like really advanced and you're already, have basically 95% of or 99% of your muscle, then it's more understandable if you compete every year. But when you're starting out like me, I'm not gonna just compete every year. Obviously I'll take some time off, so I can actually make progress. Just like AJ Morris, and
Yeah,
those guys, playing the long game. So you have to have patience, and a lot of times, these younger guys that comment that the steroid accusations, they just don't have that patience. I feel like, and they just want these results overnight, and unfortunately, that's not the way it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like they don't see the years and years that it's taken to get to this point, and they can't really see how much power that a 5-year bulk can do. Like, even someone like Alberto, like the bulk that he's doing, it's like he's already like got to such a high level with his physique, but but even now he's thinking, okay, I'm gonna bulk for ages, and then unveil it.
But yeah, that's just like one of the biggest problems I think is with these younger guys, just not having that patience, and the insight to know that it's going to take time, and you have to make a sacrifice, you're going to put on some fat, if you're really going to put on some size, so you have to sacrifice some of that muscle definition, and looking lean for the beach, for the summer.
And it's like,
but in the long run, it pays off.
Yeah, and like it's not going to look good, right? Like I think Jack Thornberry is such a good example because basically when he competes, it's like holy fuck, his physique is so damn good.
Yeah.
And then like you look at him now, and his physique's like if you saw him standing next to like someone who's like not even a bodybuilder, just lifts a little and they're kind of lean and they just sort of maintain that leanness, you might even think the other guy looks better. Just because like he's having to get to such a high body fat percentage, and then it's like that takes away so much definition. It just like it's not a flattering physique, and that's sort of the reality of it, especially when you're natural. Because it's like you see these IFBB pros, and it's like we all kind of know they're not, like most of them are not natural, and then like you look at them and you think, wow, even on their off season they're still pretty fucking shredded. Like you don't see them getting to really really high body fat percentages. But then you see people like Alberto, right? Like you see him on comp day, and you're like, holy! Like for some people, they see that and they're like, "Fuck, is that natural?" Like that. Like I've shown friends Alberto, and they're like, "Bullshit, he's natural." Like they're straight off the bat, and then I'll show them a picture of him, like completely off season, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, I could believe that guy's natural." And it's just that perception of like not realizing like you have to get to that like unflattering physique to get to the like insane physique. Yeah,
and that's funny, just like I didn't get all these steroid comments, and accusations until I started cutting.
Exactly.
Same way. So it's like it's just that perception, that lower body fat percentage, that illusion, but basically, and just like though, whenever my strength isn't increasing right now.
Yeah.
It's gone down some in these past few weeks, that I've, gotten leaner and leverage has changed, and it's just you're not going to be able to, bench as much as you initially did just at 210, and obviously you have to make sacrifices either way, so but it just depends on your goal at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of just have to accept it, like okay, like right now I'm going to look way more shredded, but my bench is going to go down. My deadlift's going to go way down. It's like all that sort of stuff is going to like change a lot. Maybe your pull-ups will go up though. Like that's always. But what about like if you could give yourself advice, like say how old when you started lifting? Like 14? Like
I was like 13 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, close
so
to 14.
When you were 13, like what would you say to yourself like when you first started to be like, okay, these are the things you should probably know? Like what would those sort of things be?
Man, that's a good question. Basically, obviously, there's a lot of I didn't know at the time, and you know, one thing was, I started out training every day of the week. You know, recovery is important.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something I, probably should have been more aware of. You know, actual, recovery and taking deloads. You know, I wasn't really even taking deloads up until, when I started working with Jeff in 3DMJ. And over those years, I did accumulate some injuries, not anything very serious.
Yeah.
But I had a few back injuries, my left shoulder, slight injury there, and also one of my glutes, a slight injury there. So I've had some setbacks, not anything major, but so I think just having like deloads and a time to recover, focusing more on recovery, that's something that I failed to really practice, initially,
and
early on.
Emphasis on it, and sort of like realizing, like, okay, this actually is quite important. Like, this is going to make a big impact in the future. And how about can we finish off?
And
with this?
man, I guess one thing is, I was going to say, is like, each workout, like what I do this workout, that's going to affect, next week's workout,
And like, so do you mean like the accumulation of volume?
Right, and that fatigue, like, if I go to failure every set, that's going to have an effect, the next workout. And even, for this workout, if I'm doing like 4 sets of 8 or say I'm just doing 4 working sets, and I do like a set of 8, the first set, the failure, and then the second set, I'm obviously, it's going to drop, the amount of reps I'm going to be able to do is going to drastically, kind of drop compared to, if I had left maybe a rep or 2 in the tank, those first sets, and save, some of that fatigue. But
and it's sort of like, that's something that, I know for myself, I didn't really respect rest for so long. And I didn't respect how, a calorie surplus and some rest can make your body feel so much better. And I thought, I just put it down to okay, I've got scoliosis, I'm just going to get injuries. But I've managed to minimize them so much just by actually taking some rest days. Because I feel like once you really get into lifting and you really enjoy lifting, no one likes a rest day. It's like everyone just wants to go in there, smash some weights, listen to loud music. But it's in reality, it's not always the best thing to do. And even if it feels like the hardest at the time, I think the harder thing is to refrain from going to the gym and doing just going balls to the wall. So it's always fun to go balls to the wall, but it's not optimal. And I think your coaches 3DMJ do a good point of making that clear, making the whole point of okay, you need rest days, you need balance. A lot of bodybuilders sort of dig the word balance, but I think you kind of do need balance. I think it actually is quite important because it's if you... one of my other guests said it well the other day. They said, if you go and win a comp, but you've got no one to nothing to go home and celebrate to, or you just don't have you just let every other aspect fall down, then that's always a hard thing. If you sort of let it, but obviously it's kind of you do want to let it become quite a huge part of your life. You don't want to just half-ass it. What about
and it is selfish, in a way, and you're focusing on yourself so much. And obviously, as a result of that, your relationships can be affected, and sometimes negatively.
But it's kind of just
you got to kind of, I guess,
roll with the punches.
You make some sacrifices.
Yeah, and I feel like it's things like if you're on prep, I've never even done a cut. I'm just perma bulking right now. If I do a cut, it's I can't go out for a drink with my friends, or I don't think I will. Especially not regularly. just because it's like it's not, that's not helpful and that's not consistent.
Right.
Like, I think you need to make sacrifices, especially as like a teenager, because everyone's like, yeah, let's go get drunk. Everyone's always doing that, and it's like that sort of lifestyle can't really work too well. And then
and for me, just when I was living obviously throughout high school, a lot of the time, I didn't go out, when a lot of other people my age were going out, hanging out, doing all kinds of, whatever, I was at home most of the time. I didn't go out a lot with friends really, and I was kind of in isolation, and some people would, see that as, like a waste of time, and a lot of times, even at school it was funny because I would have, obviously classmates see me and my physique and be like, man, you're big, but like you're big for nothing,
What do you mean? Yeah,
I would get that a lot,
right.
And but it's paid off for me.
Now it's like you've
yeah.
become respected in the community that you've admired for so long, and like I feel like and you've done it in such a great way, and now like you're respected by the most respected people in the community, and that's saying a lot. Like if 3DMJ is like, fuck yeah, this is our client, like we coach this guy, like yeah we do, like that is such a good thing, especially for like a lot of people want that so bad, and like I feel like you've done it in such a great way, and it's very very respectful.
It means so much to me to just have them really supporting me like this, and that's the thing, for me, obviously I still don't have the most followers, I still don't have the biggest following, but the people I do have, I have a lot of really well respected people following me, and that means more to me than having a million followers. But having these people like 3DMJ, people like that, following me, that means more than anything, really.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it says a lot because it's like, basically, like say it's literally like say if you're gonna buy supplements, you say, oh, okay, who's sponsored by them, blah blah blah. Like for DeNovo, I did recently interviewed the owner, and basically the reason I would trust DeNovo is because Alberto trusts it, right? And it's kind of like the same with you. It's like people trust and admire you, and that sort of says a lot because it's like people that I already trust and admire you. So it's like that's probably a good indicator that you're a person that I should follow. That you probably have good training style, good information. You're probably someone that gives just brings value, and it's like I think it's a really really good indicator.
Right.
I'd probably like to finish off with this. What would be your main sort of advice for the kid who wants to get into bodybuilding at some point? They're like super skinny kid. Basically, if you want to picture a demographic, picture a skinny kid from the ages of like 12 to 18, like that sort of age range, and they want to get as jacked as possible, and they want to probably compete. They love natural bodybuilding. What would your main pieces of advice be to them?
Well, I would definitely say have patience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the keys right there is just have patience, and don't try to, rush, competing, try to build a base, I would say, and obviously, learn as much as you can, and get the basics fundamentals down, If you I think so many people, they overlook the basics, and they're so focused on these minute details that, really don't matter as much as just those basic fundamentals.
Yeah.
So I feel like, they have, their priorities kind of out of, order. And so if you can get those basic fundamentals down, build that good base, have patience, playing the long game, as AJ, I think it's AJ Morris likes to say. I think that's a key. That, I mean, at least for me, it's paid off so far. Just waiting, before I, because obviously, I thought about competing, some years, maybe when I was 16 and whatnot, but I still felt like I wanted to put on more, more size. But yeah, so I would say definitely just, don't try to rush it, too soon. But at the same time, obviously the experience, even if you do compete, kind of young, as a teen, you can gain a lot of experience from that. Which can be used, to your advantage. So,
and that's sort of like quite a good thing is like knowing when to compete. I think it's very like individual, but I think you've done a great job of like maximizing your potential while staying young, and like you build that base, and now it's like, okay, quick, like I'm 19, quick, get a show in while I'm 19, crush it, and then like see where to go from there. And I think it's such like you've done such an admirable thing. Is there any other key points that you think would be really, really important for the novice lifter getting into it?
Well, kind of use your critical thinking as to, thinking about, who you're listening to, who you're looking up to, because obviously there's a lot of, fitness influencers out there.
Yeah.
The best, so you kind of got to, use your critical thinking skills to really, find, learn who, really is giving out good information, who's, kind of in just for the dollars, the cash.
Would you like to sort of name drop some people that you really respect and you think, and you trust their information? We'll just name drop a few people.
Yeah. Well, obviously, 3DMJ, not just because, obviously I wouldn't be getting coached by them if I didn't think they were, really genuine people. So, like 3DMJ, Jeff Nippard, I think is a good guy, obviously, like AJ Morris, he's a guy, I've just recently, since I started prepping, I started following, and I definitely, looking up to him, Jack Thornburn, let's see, like, I think, some of the guys like Chris Lovato, Chris Elkins, I think are pretty good, guys to look up to, and Matt Ogus, he's got a lot of good information, and of course, obviously, like Revive Stronger, they have a podcast, Steve Hall,
he's actually come on here as well, which is quite cool.
And there's a lot. I mean, I can't even.
There's so many.
I'll leave out a lot of people, like Mike Israetel.
Pretty much, like, I feel like if you follow those people, you've got a. If you think of it as like a knowledge base, you follow those people, consume their information, you've got a good base built, and then you like they will sort of lead you to people that are respectable and can give you more. Where can people find you online, and where can people find your social media if you have a YouTube, Instagram, etc.?
Well, the biggest, obviously, I guess right now is my Instagram. Just if you look up Joshua Kenyon on Instagram, you'll probably see mine. It's Kenyon the Third. And I do have a YouTube channel, which I actually have a decent bit of subscribers, considering I don't ever usually upload. If you just look at my name again, Joshua Kenyon, you'll see my little YouTube channel. I'm meaning to actually start posting more on there.
And I'll leave them linked in the show notes. So that'll be, if anyone's listening that want to find them, they'll be linked in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.